Hey, what's up, my friends? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Victor, and today I'm going to answer a couple of questions which are the same, essentially, and it has to do with how, when you start to change, as you naturally do quite quickly, how this awakening, how this sudden change in you affects your existing relationships with your family and friends and co-workers. Oftentimes, you change so much. There's so much that goes down, and it can create a lot of unusual responses in people who have been in your life a long time. And also part of this change is the desire to be more authentic, to just be yourself, and to have people in your life that accept you for who you now have become and maybe in the future will continue to blossom into. And when other people aren't going through this change as quickly, it can create some problems. But a lot of the problems that initially happened, I found, really had a lot to do with me and my own expectations, my own lack of acceptance, rather than the people themselves and their fluctuating reactions to the new me. So I'm going to get into that a little bit. So here's what they were saying. One of them was like, Vic, I have a question. My parents are closed-minded, ignorant, big boomer career types, and their values essentially diametrically oppose mine. They want to win the rat race, that's their purpose, and I felt that I should distance myself from them and have no contact, but they feel kind of guilty about doing that, basically. And another person was basically saying the same thing. How do you keep your relationships with your family? I know it's tough because I understand. How to determine to associate with your family events and still be involved, if you will? I think they're basically saying, like, what do you do, man? I'm going to put this computer down. What do you do? On one hand, I don't really want to be around them. Part of me feels guilty not wanting to be around them, but it just kind of, again, it's a messy situation. You basically heard it in their question. So I can only really share my own experience. What happened with me initially is when I started to awaken, I was so suddenly sensitive to everything. And a lot of our conditioning and dysfunction does stem from our parents and the conditioning they imposed upon us. No reason to judge them. They were just doing their best with what they were given, and they were heavily conditioned by their parents and them by their parents and so on down the line. But when one in the family lineage starts to kind of become more conscious of all this, it's quite natural to point the finger at the culprit, who your parents are. And this is easy to do because they are often the ones who will resist you as you start to drastically undergo some sort of personality change. And this overall effect can just make the relationships be a little bit rocky. It can make family gatherings kind of very emotionally intense for both parties. And then there's this, all this kind of begs the question, well, what do you do? What's the right thing to do? How do you solve it? Well, like many things in life, it's not so simple. And the way I looked at it in the beginning and dealt with it is far different than I look at it now. And I kind of went back and forth with things. So I'll just kind of go over what happened with me. In the beginning, I was going through this awakening, sort of sprung into it like many of you. Found myself overly sensitive, where I couldn't really handle a lot of people, and being in I could just feel everyone's emotions. I was so empathic, And again, the family dynamic, the family gathering was always very intense. So it was too much for me. So me and my wife and family, we moved out of state down to Florida for a couple years as a way of just it just felt like the right thing to do, and I believe it was, because it gave us time to ourselves where we could sort of withdraw from society and work on ourselves and come to terms with this new emotional and just actual sensitivity, and that was appropriate. But you know what? Being around challenging relationships has a lot of value. It's tough, and it can be uncomfortable because you're always triggering one another, but you can get through a lot of your own growth by doing that. And that's why many people, I believe, find themselves stuck in an uncomfortable relationship, because your higher self knows, listen, buddy, suck it up, because there's a lot of growth going on, and let's just get it out of the way right now so you can let it go. So what happened with me is we felt very inspired and guided to go back and kind of go back into our old lives that we sort of escaped from a couple of years back. Now, as we went back, as we sort of anticipated, there was a lot more of this emotional growth, and we would treat, the family and the friends and the coworkers and just our old lives sort of reminded us of all the work we sort of hoped to escape from by just leaving the situation. That just getting yourself out of the relationship, getting yourself away, doesn't exactly make all your own issues go away that relate with them. So again, we went back into it, all of that flailed up again. And it was just this several year process, starting from the beginning when we initially left to now, where I believe we just sort of purged a lot of those relationships. Really helped us do a lot of healing, basically. And now I'm at a point where we left again, but not with the same motive. We're out of state now. We're in California. I grew up in Michigan. So I went from Michigan to Florida, back to Michigan. Now I'm in California as of like 6 months ago or so. But we didn't leave to escape. We didn't leave because we didn't want to be around. The people in where we left had nothing to do with it. It was us just sort of following our path. And I just believe it was time. There was no more, there was not as much of a pressing issue of all like the emotional learning, you could say, in that context. I didn't need the Michigan situation anymore for my own personal growth. And now I feel like liberated from it all. I'm able to accept the people who were in my life from Michigan, whether they like me or agree with me or support me or accept me. It's not important to me. I can look at them as just with more acceptance. Again, more genuine love. Like, okay, listen, so-and-so, they think you're a fruitcake. They think you're nuts. You moved into an RV. You're kind of like doing this weird YouTube thing about Ascension, and they think it's stupid. They think we've lost our minds. And I genuinely don't feel emotionally bothered by that. I can understand where people who are not experiencing what I am going through, I totally get where they would think that. And it's not surprising, really. So either way, your life is going to basically put you where it's ideal for you to be. There is no one way to cure the situation. Relationships are incredibly complex, and I always recommend learning what you can from them, trying to see things from their point of view. And again, this is not something I can really answer, but I would say, I don't know. I don't really have anything to say, honestly. I kind of just told you my experience, and again, perhaps you can gain some wisdom and knowledge from that, but there is no real solution. I can't just answer your questions for you, but I can tell you what'll go a long way is you accepting everyone in your life for who they are and not needing them to change. It's ironic that a lot of times we can be very frustrated that everyone wants us to be someone else, and yet we are that same way towards them, hence the resistance. Because if you truly accept the people in your life for who they are, even if they wish you would change, it won't affect you personally. You'll be able to accept that within them. So take that for what you will, guys. Keep the questions coming. Have an amazing day. Love you all. Peace.